He's Marler, and this is his music show.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another craptastic episode of the Marler Music Show. I am David. Hope you're all doing very well out there today, whatever it is you're doing. Today, we're going to talk about an album that celebrates a 40th anniversary this month. September is a big month for a lot of albums anniversaries. I'm going to be doing a couple of those as we move forward here. Kiss had several, but the one I want to concentrate on today is this little gem right here. Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. Fantastic, fantastic album. This is one that has a very special place in my heart. Up until I heard this album, I listened to Kiss. Zeppelin, Skinner, a little bit of AC/DC, mainly I listened to REO Speedwagon because of my brother. I think Quiet Riot had just hit it big with Come On Feel the Noise maybe. This album, though, I remember the first time I ever heard of Motley Crue, this was my first exposure, particularly the video for Looks to Kill. That video was so strange in a way. You know, first of all, Motley looked like four ugly girls. You know, if you looked at them, you're like, wow, is that men or women? You could definitely tell they were men, mainly by Vince's voice. But they looked very androgynous, had a whole kind of glam thing going on before glam really started good. And a lot of people would think because of that, and I don't disagree, that they kind of started the glam movement. But just that sound was something that I had never really been exposed to before then. And it was very, very kind of dark but heavy, but it just moved me. Love that song. So I remember a friend of mine in school had the cassette tape, and I listened to it, and I was just like blown away. Like, mixed guitar tone in this was something that I'd never really heard before. You know, and this album really kind of put them on the map. Too Fast for Love. A lot of people, at least I, as a 10, 11-year-old boy, didn't know anything about that album. Shout at the Devil album was my first exposure to them. But yeah, I remember just listening to it and being like, oh wow. And so it's weird. It's an album that I know my father would have never let me go into the record store and buy. So this same friend, he lived in walking distance to a record store, and I gave him $10 or whatever to go up there and get it for me and bring it to school, and he did, and I kind of hit it or whatever, but listened to it. Just fantastic, blown away by the whole thing. And for me, this album is one that it did two things in my mind. It kind of started the glam movement, especially with the look, not so much with the sound. The sound to me was pretty straight up hard rock metal. But the look itself kind of started that movement. You know, you look at like bands a few years later like Dokken and Rat, Poison, kind of took on the same look, you know, after this. And I know Dokken came out about the same time that Motley did, but they didn't really gain any traction until a year or two later after Shout at the Devil. But yeah, Shout at the Devil was just an incredible, incredible album. The sounds on this and the songs that were fantastic. So I figure we'll go a little bitty quick track by track on this, kind of give you an overview. So the album starts off with a kind of a weird, not instrumental, but just kind of an intro with some vocal speaking in the background, which is Nikki Sixx talking, called In the Beginning. You first hear this, you know, as like an 11-year-old kid, it's like, whoa, that's kind of weird. Kind of got a dark feel to it, but it was really cool. And the way it just, at the end, just kind of kicks out, and then all of a sudden the intro to Shout at the Devil comes in. And Shout at the Devil is one of those songs, it's a really hard groove, pretty heavy, nice riff. kind of sets the tone for the whole album. This is a song that's kind of strange. They remade it to a kind of a different version in '97 on Generation Swine, which was okay, but kind of an unnecessary thing to do. I think the original version just stands on above and beyond the other one by leaps and bounds. So I think that was kind of unnecessary. But that's your first track. Then it goes right into Looks That Kill, which Looks That Kill. Well, like I said, my first exposure to the band, first song I ever heard from them. To this day, I think it's got a killer opening, a killer riff, great song, guitar solo. Mick Mars was just fantastic guitar player, way underrated for what he did for this band and for guitar in general. I think he gets way not enough publicity in the good ways. And then you go from that, and the next song is Bastard, which is personally one of my favorite songs on the album, and actually maybe my favorite. It's one of my favorite Motley songs. Never seen them do it live. I don't think they've really done it ever, with the exception of when they were supporting Ozzy Osbourne on Bark at the Moon, touring off this album. You know, Kiss had taken him out from Too Fast for Love or whatever for a little while on their Creatures of the Night run, but I think that kind of went south. I think Motley was kind of partying too much for Kiss's liking or whatever, because Kiss is never really a party band, especially in the way that Motley was, you know, all the drugs and stuff. But, you know, they put Shout the Devil Out, got in there with Ozzy, and they got along fantastically. You should go and if you haven't heard, look up some of the stories about Motley and Ozzy on tour together. It's just hilarious, some of the stuff. But anyway, yeah, Bastard, you know, and that's a song that a couple years later the PMRC kind of attacked, saying that, you know, it was ruining the minds of the teenagers and children, and, you know, Motley was satanic because of all the symbolism, the way they looked, and some of their lyrics or whatever. And, you know, so it kind of caused a lot of controversy, this album and that song. And, you know, the thing about the music business is, you know, a lot of times bad publicity sells albums. And that's exactly what happened with this. They just kind of exploded after all that. And it's one of those things that I think it was kind of done on purpose. You know, they saw a way to sell albums, a way to get their name out there by being controversial, and it worked, and basically set them up for the rest of their career. Then you've got God Bless the Children of the Beast, instrumental on here. The only time there's any lyrics is the title at the very, very end. Very different kind of sound in terms of, for the rest of the album, it's, you know, kind of half mellow, but it's got this haunting feel to it that is really good, and quite honestly sets up very well to the next song, which is Helter Skelter, a cover of a Beatles song. And if you've ever heard the Beatles version of this song, obviously it's not as heavy as Motley's version. However, for the Beatles it was pretty heavy, and for the time it was fairly heavy. And a lot of people, including myself, kind of consider that possibly one of the first metal type riffs to ever come out. And Motley's version of this is very good. I've heard them do it a few times in concert, and I think they do it very well. And you know, it was a few years after I heard this before I realized, well, that's not their song, it's a Beatles song. So I thought it was theirs, but obviously it's not. It's from the Beatles, and it's a song that I think was very fitting, and the way they did it really fit the tone and the feel of this whole album. After that, it goes into Red Hot. Very good drum and bass intro with Tommy and Nikki. This is a song that kind of set the tone for the next album a little bit, Theater of Pain. A lot of Theater of Pain kind of has this feel a little bit to it. But this is a very good song. It's awesome live. Also another favorite for me on this album. After that, you go into Too Young to Fall in Love. Fantastic song. The video for this was very iconic. I think it was a better video than the one for Looks to Kill. This video had a little bit of comical tone to it, you know, being this based on this whole like Japanese type thing or whatever. Very, very weird at the time. Not really sure what they were trying to go for there, but the video played off very well. And this was one of the bigger songs that they released off this album, and I think it's, like I said, to this day, it's one of my favorite songs on the album. It stands the test of time. They still do it live from time to time, and I think it's a very good live song as well. After that, you've got Knock 'Em Dead Kid, which has an awesome guitar intro, awesome guitar groove. Once again, in the solo, it proves how great of a guitar player Mick Mars is. One of my, and I know I'm saying this a lot about this album, another favorite off this album for me. I remember I used to, when I was a kid playing basketball, I would kind of pretend this was my intro music or whatever, or intro our team would come out to, like, we're going to knock them dead or whatever. I know it's kind of cheesy and corny, but this song really had a lot of punch to it, and the message had a lot of punch to it. And like I say, for somebody as young as I was when I was exposed to this, it was really kind of mesmerizing all the way around. It's another very good song. 10 Seconds to Love, not one of my favorites on this album. It's a pretty good song. To me, it speaks more, especially lyrically, to their kind of way of life that they decided to live and what they were going for out there on the road. It's something that they lived up to for many, many years to come. And it's kind of, unfortunately, became like what they were known for as opposed to their music, which is really kind of sad, because Motley has put out some really good songs over the years. And then finally it ends with Danger, which I think in a lot of ways this is kind of a lost gem on this album. This is one that it's kind of different sounding for them, but almost sounds like something that Judas Priest would have done in the mid-70s or late 70s in terms of the guitar sound and the kind of tone of the whole song. But it's a very, very good song. And look, here's the bottom line on this album from guys. I think it is by far, not even close, to being the best album that Motley Crue ever did. I think it's definitely better than their first one. Theater of Pain, Girls, 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 to me, those two took such a downward turn for them musically. And it's been, it's no secret that as the years went on after Shout at the Devil, the next few years, and when they were recording Theater and they were recording Girls, that the drug use and everything just got so bad and whatever. Especially with Tommy, Vince, and Nikki. Mick always kind of stayed out of that limelight. He just stayed back. He did his job. He did it very well. Kept the publicity off himself and went about his business. The other three, though, kept that reputation. And it showed in the quality of the songs that they put on Theater of Pain and Girls, Girls, Girls. Dr. Feelgood was considerably better. They got clean. They had several hits off that album. It was their biggest album to date. It was their biggest tour to date. And quite honestly, the pinnacle of their career. After they got back together in the mid-90s, and then, Generation Swine was it was a disaster commercially. It wasn't that good of an album, and then they break up again for a while, get back together in 03 or 04, and stayed together ever since. And, really, Saints of Los Angeles is good. It's not great. It's probably, for me, I'd say and this isn't saying much about the quality of all their albums, but to me it's their third best they've ever done. Behind, I put Shout at first, Feel Good, and then Saints of Los Angeles. So yeah, this is an album that I think, they peaked musically really early in their career. It set them up for a lot of success. They'd put some songs out afterwards that were bigger than anything off of Shout the Devil. But as a whole album, this is impeccable. I think it's their best album ever. I think it's one of the best rock albums ever. It's one of those where there's no skips. You just listen front to back, and every song is tight. Every song is almost a masterpiece. And I think it's a huge shame that they didn't put out more music like this in their career. They never did anything again that even touched the feel of this album, and I think that's a shame, because I think that this is something that this was their strong suit. This is what got them their attention. This is the sound I think they were meant to have and meant to stay with, but they strayed because of a lot of reasons, and the rest is history. But who am I to judge? They made a career out of it. They're still touring right now and made a lot of money. So, you know, more power to them. So anyway, that's my take on this album. Like I said, the 40th anniversary of this kind of spawned this video. So I'm interested to know what you think about this album. Where does it rank for you in terms of Motley albums? Where does it rank for you in terms of rock albums? You know, do you think it's one of the better ones? Do you think, how much impact do you think it had on metal and glam metal moving forward after this? So I'd always like to hear your comments, see your comments. You can comment below. Do that as you're liking and subscribing to the channel. That would be very much appreciated. And so we'll see you soon with another episode. Probably going to do another anniversary type album review coming up. We'll see what happens. But for right now, that's all I have for you guys. So I'm going to sign off as I always do and say, be good to each other, be good to yourself, and life will be good to you. Peace.